All right, it happened. Brent Pry is no longer the coach at Virginia Tech. Um, Something we knew was happening. This is not a shock at all to anybody who keeps up to college football or keeps up with college football. Um, really, to any degree, Brent Pry has been significantly underperforming as the Virginia Tech head coach. Really, during his entire tenure. Um, I know Fuente underperformed and kind of left the program in the dumps. So there was a lot of hope and a lot of time given to Brent Pry to really turn things around, um, and a lot of trust in Brent Pry that he was the man to do it. Unfortunately, Virginia Tech fans have been let down again after a pitiful 0-3 start, with losses respectfully to Vandy, South Carolina, and now Old Dominion. Honestly, the first two losses are not horrible losses. They're it's disappointing as a Virginia Tech fan who, Virginia Tech is really a prominent football program. So to lose both of those big games right out of the gate is pretty disappointing if you're a Hokie fan. But to lose to Old Dominion at home is just downright embarrassing. And it wasn't even close. We're talking about a game that was 28-0 at halftime. So this is not a surprise. Like I said in the last previously, in our matchup talks beforehand, Chase and I discussed how we thought that this week was going to be his last week. I actually thought last week was his last week, but he managed to just squeak by a little bit, and then obviously with the disappointing loss this week, it was really no surprise. So he's out. Who's going to be in? We don't know. But yeah, finally we have a change in Blacksburg. Chase.
I really thought that this game was going to be the polar opposite come halftime. And they found themselves down in a big hole quickly. 31 nothing there right at the beginning of the third quarter. They didn't put a point up until 4 minutes, like 4.5 minutes left. They finally scored a touchdown. Overall, like if you look at the stat line just on paper, the quarterback play, he didn't play bad, but it just wasn't enough. It was too little too late. I really kind of thought he was going to be canned after last week as well. And I feel like they gave him one more shot to just see what he could do, and he disappointed, to say the least. Um, and now they find themselves in a very bad situation. I know that they appointed the interim head coach. I know that they do have some candidates. James Madison. He isn't, or including James Madison coach Bob Chesney. And South Carolina coach Shane Beamer. They're also talking about the South Florida coach, and the Western Kentucky coach. These are just some names that are thrown out there. Obviously, this just happened, I want to say yesterday or earlier today. So it's not really set in stone yet of who's going to be his replacement. But it definitely, I feel like it was kind of overdue. Another big thing too is like now that these players are here, they do have an opportunity to transfer. Uh, and depending on who they bring in could really influence that. So hopefully for Virginia Tech that this isn't going to be something even worse than what it already is for them. Starting off 0-3, they're going to have a tough time battling back here. I think it's definitely doable to just have a fighting chance and everything, but it's just not looking good for Virginia Tech as a whole right now.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I really like his buyout was, I believe, 6 million. So it wasn't like a ridiculous amount. Like it's not like we're talking Jimbo Fisher money. Um,
Yeah.
but it it really puts into perspective kind of how much, and I don't know what Virginia Tech's finances are like compared to, their boosters and everything compared to Texas A&M. I would probably imagine that it's not quite. I mean, Texas A&M probably is significantly more, um in terms of like allocated money from boosters to the football program.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like the amount of chances they gave Brent Pry just speaks how much they really wanted it to work out. And it's upsetting because I really like Brent Pry as a person. I think that he's a really good dude, and I think I think he'll land on his feet somewhere. But I feel like sometimes certain coaches are not meant for head coaching positions, and I think that this might be one of those cases. Brent Pry was, um, I'm not going to say elite, but he was a very good defensive coordinator for the Nittany Lions, notably back in 2016, whenever they had that run, they won the Big Ten and almost won or almost clinched a spot in the college football playoff, which ultimately went to Ohio State. But yeah, I mean he's a coach that he'll definitely land on his feet. I don't know where he'll go or where he really wants to go from here, because once you are a head coach, um, I feel like you kind of get that freedom, you kind of get that that feel for it. Like you almost don't want to downgrade to a coordinator position again. Um, but
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm not sure. Like you said, I'm sure he's going to land on his feet. It's just hard to tell where. Maybe VT wasn't the best pick for him, the best landing spot. So he's definitely going to have an opportunity, but I guess we'll just find out here very soon, I'm sure, what's the future of Brett Pry.
just some game line stats for anyone wondering how the ODU VT game went. It was not good for VT. Obviously, they had really a very good fourth quarter to make this game look a lot more respectable than what it really was. This was a beatdown by Old Dominion. They were the better football team. They were the cleaner football team, and they were the football team that had the right recipe to win. Um, Virginia Tech went Virginia Tech went 6 for 13 on third down, and against Vandy in South Carolina, it was, if not the same, on par or worse. Um, the 12 penalties, for over 100, well over 100 yards, um, and 3 turnovers. Those are not winning numbers, and these are not numbers that we have seen any sort of improvement out of Brent Pry and his unit. Um, so I agree with Virginia Tech. I think this was the right call. I think this was the right move as their program to try and get somebody in there and see if they can build any type of momentum to turn the season around and maybe get some traction as to maybe where they go from here as a program, who they're going to lead with going forward. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, I like Brent Pry, but this needed to happen for Virginia Tech.